After all this, you still...
I still want that ghastly yes, and you had better deliver.
This is Greenhouse Gaslighting, a free and independent podcast discussing society and culture with a left-wing, down-to-earth perspective. If you've ever wanted a deep dive on the issues, but felt like the bar for entry was too high, then you're in the right place. All right, admittedly, before I started the recording, I was talking to our assembled staff here about how this has been the worst July on record for me, for various reasons. Seems to be like a common thread for a lot of us. So a lot of the commentary today is going to be more locally focused. And I'm just going to read the outline verbatim for each topic so you can kind of see how little effort went into this one, unfortunately. So we didn't do an emergency pod for this because it just, again, this isn't pod save. So first thing, Lindsey Graham diva down.
No, oh no, diva down. I just want y'all to know that one of the first things I thought when I heard that he was dead, that he would be in hell for the rest of eternity, is that how many gay and bi sex workers, especially black and brown ones, are now safe in the DC area. At least from him. They're not there's plenty of perverts there to be degenerates, but like at least their biggest enemy is defeated. Allegedly.
No one will ever have to be pulled aside in a DC boudoir and asked, "Oh, sorry, I didn't know you were going to see my ladybugs."
You know, I'm skipping a little ahead in the outline, but I think it's time that we embrace, we eschew the coastal elitism that has been bred into this podcast, and we're a Michigander podcast. We better talk like native Michiganians.
Okay, that's...
I'm gonna stick it to him.
Oh my god.
You know, you're already a class traitor and a bit of a race traitor, Audie. You can't be a Michigander
Yeah.
traitor.
So
You know I'm gonna have to stick it to him. You know, blacks like Obama, so I'm gonna talk about Obama like this.
we just jump straight ahead. We're just getting straight into fucking Haley Stevens. Oh my god.
I just really want you guys to know that multiple videos of her going up to black people around Michigan, but especially in Detroit, and it was like Obama, right? Like literally not even like like she's actually like will be taking a picture of them is like, yeah, and I like Obama. Bitch, you can't do that to black people. You can't be like, hey, remember that one black that was associated with? That's not how you run elections.
Yeah, so a little sorry for taking us off course, but I'm like, I can't do this bit if, you know, I'm going to talk normally for the whole show. For what it's worth, despite that joke, I have not been performing a media trained accent provided by my coastal elite masters on this podcast. I don't think either of you have either. But as people, I mean, you two literally live in her district,
right?
Or at least did.
No, we do, sadly.
Yeah. And I don't think either of you have lived super long outside of those areas. We don't know anyone who sounds like that.
That is, you're spot on. Like, no one in this part of the upper Midwest has that accent. You could argue that's like a Minnesota thing, but that clip that we're referencing.
Well, it's not even just a clip, right? Like, obviously,
every single
there is
time.
Yeah, and part of what's frustrated me so much about this campaign, you know, we'll just get into that, I guess, is I mean, like, obviously, I have my ideological disalignments with Haley Stevens, but it's almost like more so like the intellectual ones that bother me more. And in particular, it's like this campaign feels like an active effort to gaslight who I don't know, because it's just like, oh, like, yes, this is what people in Michigan are like. This is authentically Michigan. Why we're not using pure Michigan to describe it, I don't know. Maybe it's because this isn't authentically
This
Michigan, so we
isn't
don't know the
pure
actual
Michigan
catchphrases.
at all.
Well, it's okay. It's good
Yeah,
that
and
we.
it's
Go ahead.
but it's just like with that, it's like if who are you trying to communicate this to, right? Because I see like a lot of like established, your near Tandons of the world saying like, oh yeah, this is authentically Michigan, even though I'm not from Michigan. But I'm like, Stevens is running for a statewide office. The only people who can vote for her are people in Michigan who would know that, yeah, this isn't particularly authentically Michigan, nor is it even really particularly authentically Haley Stevens based on her career trajectory.
You're spot on, because like everything about this campaign from Stevens is completely illogical, and we can all be like, okay, her consultants clearly told her to do that, and she's taking them at their word. But it kind of all tracks when you realize that a good amount of her donations are outside the state. And of course, like, in a race
Yeah,
this
but did you
big,
know
like,
that Abdul was supported by people from outside the state too?
that's
So,
the other half
it's
of this. Oh
almost
my
like it's
god!
almost like
Did
the
you know
same
that he
thing.
was a billionaire?
But that's what I'm trying to get at, is
He's
like
a millionaire.
Million,
the,
right,
the if you remember, like, especially like pre-Trump and then right during Trump won, there would always be like these big pushes for senatorial candidates, and you would have some kind of centrist Dem do like a big push against whatever Republican or Trump ally was there. And I think like Kentucky was like the big case study for this, where you had like Allison Lundergan Grimes, you had that one Air Force lady,
yeah.
and it was just like, raise as much money as we can out of state, and we'll play that like homespun folksy character. And I guess you can do that in
Well,
like,
those races were good at like getting grassroots money too, because it's very easy to convince a random voter like, hey, you hate Mitch McConnell, right?
yeah.
In which
Because
case you might be
someone's
living
dead.
your best life right now. But like it's easy to sell that, whereas like and this race is odd, where Mike Rogers has been sort of absent, and like that gives him
Yes.
maybe a
Well, he doesn't
slight
live here.
advantage. Right, but it gives him, like, maybe a slight advantage in terms of he'll be unscathed from this primary, um, but I don't like but even then, he just feels like this abstract candidate because of how absent he is, whereas at least you'll have some sense of who Stevens, or Abdul is, but, I mean, and I've talked with this with a few other people too, that, like, of normally in races like that, you get someone who like and like Kentucky races are always long shots, right? Because it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
like the electorate, you could run Jesus Christ here, and he's going to lose it by double digits. Um, but here it's like there was really no other mainstream Dem that they could have put forth. Like, I mean, you could argue maybe McMorrow could have been that role, but she fanned out probably because she didn't have the financial backing of that Stevens has, and also just doesn't have the inspirational factor that Abdul does. But it's very strange to me that like and I guess a lot of it is just that like so many people retired. You lost, your Kildees are gone.
Yeah.
Um Debbie Dingell, I assume she has no ambition for the Senate, and I guess is getting up there too in age. So it's like it's very odd that Stevens is the candidate they landed on, because I think the more we've seen of her, the more it's like, what the fuck?
And
No,
I can
you're
tell
go
you,
ahead.
like, as a person who lives in the heart of her district and everything, she is one of the most nothing burger politicians ever. And I actually would not even know who she was if she was not capping for APAC and like constantly talking about Israel. Like I would not know her from a can of paint because she doesn't do anything. She doesn't have any like values. She doesn't have any like other than APAC. She doesn't have any like I'm gonna do this. All I know about her is that back in forever ago, she was on Obama's team to help the auto industry. How the fuck did that work? Not well.
Well,
The auto industry still
well,
fucking sucks. And then now she's the woman, the Christian woman who says that she sees Israel in her dreams.
yeah. So there's two things there. Like one, I mean, on the auto rescue thing, I mean, I've seen it suggested that she was more of like she was not exactly a super high up position in that. But again, that was also 20 years ago. The people who would be like, "Oh yeah, like thank God the auto bailout happened," are in their like 40s at the youngest in terms of
Mm.
like, someone who was an auto worker at the time, which is kind of crazy to think about. And also the Israel APAC thing, I kind of would slightly push back that that's a virtue because she is oddly unequipped whenever the question comes up about APAC backing to address it. She can't even give you a bad answer of just like, or even like, just like the standard, like, well, Israel is an important ally, only democracy in the Middle East, blah, blah, blah. Like the standard, bog standard stuff that we've heard for decades. She can't even give that. She's just, it always pivots. It's always uncomfortable in terms of a response. There was another video of like another black voter that she was talking to who had already voted for Abdul, because early voting has started. And I guess absentees went out before that too, so you could have voted that way as well. But when he was like talking about like, oh, it's not a candidate issue, it's a human rights issue, and she's like, yeah, right. Not in a super sarcastic tone, but if she did, if she was just like a yeah, right, I might have respected it a lot more.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like
she
that
said
weird like
nothing.
mealy mouth thing they do where it's like we hear you, we see you, but we're not going to even like give
Listen to
the
you.
Kamala response in 23. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think it's shocking how much worse. Like it's like if I'm not saying that's the reason why Kamala lost Michigan, but if we, accept, and I think most people do, that it certainly played a role, right? You have enough, like you saw how Dearborn panned out.
Right.
I don't know how you run a candidate who is far worse on the issue than Kamala was.
Yeah.
Yeah. They saw that and they're like, well, maybe that won't happen again. It was like, yeah, why wouldn't it happen again? We didn't want her then. That's one of the reasons. And again, I would like to always preface with it is Harris's fault for how bad of a campaign that she ran, but it's also Joe Biden's fault for only giving her 107 days to run that campaign. So they both suck and they both lost and got us into this situation with Trump because of their incompetence.
Well, that actually opens us up to a segue. The outline, by the way, has gone to shit, so we're just gonna run with it. Um,
Yeah.
so I think at our 2024 election debrief episode, or sometime after that, I mentioned an article about this Democratic Party meeting that happened out in Saginaw, where a lot of Democratic Party loyalists were questioning Jocelyn Benson, now a candidate for governor, about how exactly did it get fucked up this badly, right? And I think that what you've seen in the Senate run, especially in the Democratic primary, is three disparate responses to that. Um, Particularly like the Abdul McMorrow like segment of it kind of proved once and for all that like, okay, Zionism is not really a winning issue in the state of Michigan. Yes, it's a constituency. Yes, you can get that APAC money, but fundamentally, if you make it the cornerstone of your campaign, you're going to make such severe tactical errors, like the ones that McMorrow made, that you just lose viability immediately. And then what we're kind of seeing with Haley Stevens taking the mantle on that is now you're forced into even deeper tactical errors. And suffice it to say, like you said, Josh, like this was like a standard D-trip Democrat. You know what I'm saying? Like there was nothing you could say that was like fundamentally objectionable about her in like 2016 era politics, right? And then just parlaying that into the most confused, the most um wayward, and the most like out of touch image, right? Literally playing up this Midwestern accent to get those out of state donations, right? Um you're correct. You've painted yourself into such a corner you don't even know what you're doing. And I think that's like the best way to characterize Stevens' strategy at this point in a variety of ways.
Yeah, and in some ways, I mean, it's part of what I think is I've struggled with is like I don't necessarily know broadly what the strategy is like in terms of like is there a coherent vision, right? I mean the coherent vision to the extent that there is one is that she is the electable candidate who quote unquote gets things done. Now
Right.
what get things done's mean not super clear. She really has two things that she hangs her hat on. The CHIPS Act, which just like Joe Biden before her on that very same bill, she cannot articulate what it does meaningfully to people, other than it brought money into the tech sector, presumably into Michigan. But again, it is your job to sell this, and you are not
Right.
doing that. And then the auto bailout, which again, she was not in Congress for. Again, that was almost 20 years ago.
Right. Where she was practically a policy consultant on that, if anything. And then with the CHIPS
Yeah.
Act, this is the thing that I'm thinking about now is did CHIPS lay the foundation for the AI semiconductor factory we're seeing now? And that's probably a topic
Probably.
for another episode, but so
Yeah.
a question I got thinking on this, right? We can play hypotheticals, but one hypothetical I'd like to play is what if Stevens dropped out in favor of McMorrow? Would it be as cut and dry as it is for Abdul as it is now, or would it still be more competitive?
I think it'd be
Don't
way less competitive.
I think that's a non-factor. I think Mallory
Yeah, like
McMorrow was put in the race to be um somewhere for white people who were not extreme on APAC and love APAC, but also somewhere for people to who are probably a little xenophobic, Islamophobic, racist, who definitely would not vote for an Abdul without knowing about his politics. I think that's why Mallory McMorrow is going to be. I think it's actually, I'm more surprised that she bowed out as early as she did. But I think that's because they realized that that
I mean,
tactic
pretty
wasn't
darn
working.
late. She's still on the ballot.
Right, right. But like at least they went to the did the thing where like you can spoil your vote if you need to, and like they wouldn't have like even have told people to spoil their vote if they thought that those votes were gonna go to Abdul. They think that the person who would have voted for Mallory McMorrow is automatically going to vote for Haley Stevens, another white woman.
Which
I mean, I
let's
don't know
talk
if
about that. Oh, sorry,
I
I
was
don't
gonna
mean
say
to
I don't know if I
interrupt.
fully think that that's the case per se, but I mean, the thing is like when she dropped out, I mean, there was that suppressed Politico poll where it was like she was at 7%, 6% or whatever, and that seemed pretty consistent with how her support was, right? Like there's no like viable situation unless like, Chuck Schumer, rolls his glasses down, calls Haley Stevens up, like, "Hey, you suck. Just as a person, um, we need you to throw all your weight behind McMorrow because this is the only like shot we have at beating." Like, and I just don't think you can make that case because McMorrow just had such non-existent appeal at that point. Um, and I think the race would have been a lot less competitive. I still think, I mean, maybe I'm just paranoid. I still think the race is pretty competitive. The polls have honestly been all over the place. I don't think like almost all of them show it super skewed one way or the other, and that's really bizarre.
That's a fair point. So I think on the subject of keeping the thumb on the scale, right? There was another three-way race, and this is probably the first time we saw Abdul show up, right, on the scene in 2018 for the Michigan gubernatorial primary. Also, the first appearance of one Sri Tanadar. So a lot
Not that
of
wig.
a lot of evil people. I mean, again, it's like I was at the Michigan Democratic Party convention that year, and that entire experience was insane. Like looking at Shree's people, and he would have staffers like basically like swap uniforms and stuff. So like one guy would be like a grassroots supporter. All of a sudden, he swapped on like a business suit, and now he's like the body man or something like that. So it's like
Like
you
it's
can
like the changing of the guard at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier.
yes, like very much like AstroTurf to the ridiculous degree. Like everyone that he had around him was paid. Abdul was pretty organic, a lot of like, youth support. And then you had Whitmer doing a tactic that we saw McMorrow use, and she was the first one to deploy this, was like getting a black high school marching band to make a scene on at like the Cobo Hall floor. And then like McMorrow has basically been like trying to lift all of Whitmer's like successful tactics, and it's just not panning out. One, we can maybe talk about, has Whitmer's, shine faded over the years, especially with like that hot mic moment at the data center, and then also just how blatant it was of a copy of like Whitmer style political
Well,
maneuvering. I don't know.
that's something I've been thinking about too, because there was one article I had read, and I think it was the Detroit Free Press, that was kind of complaining. I mean, it was a little whiny, I thought, that was complaining about how her office's endorsements have generally not been publicly broadcasted.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, there's candidates that are running for office that have claimed that they have her endorsement, but they have been unable to verify with Whitmer's office if she actually endorsed them. And she's only had a few public endorsements. There's like one weird state Senate seat that she endorsed in the primary for against the incumbent. And then obviously for this race with Haley Stevens. And a lot of people were like, oh, this is like a big thing. And I think like it definitely benefits Stevens more than it doesn't, right? I mean, I think it is a boon for her, but I think there's a serious overestimation, because even that article was like, despite the data centers, despite capitulating to Trump earlier in the term, despite a few other things that she had done that were like the veto of the 9 bills
Right.
that were passed in the lame duck session, that the Supreme Court said like, no, they have to be put on the governor's desk. Despite all that, she's still hugely popular. And I'm like, well, one, we don't actually keep good enough track of gubernatorial approval ratings to know that that's actually true. The most recent thing I could find was there was a March article that had mentioned that her popularity had nosedived after just the Trump appearance, like at the White House when she's, covering her face with the folder. And that was like a 52% down to 43, which is pretty sheer. And I can't imagine it's any better now, right? She hasn't, she's done all these things that have pissed people off. I don't even think you need to even throw the hot mic moment in on there, right? Like, I think just the data center move in and of itself was seen as such a negative that you didn't need like the extra little twisting of the knife with like, yeah, I know people don't like this and I don't give a fuck. I don't think that was necessary, but it's just, you have all of this stuff with her that I think her political brand has just been torched. To
Yeah.
what end? I mean, I can't imagine that she does anything other than like working for a data center lobbying, like some AI company or something like that. I can't think of anything else she's realistically going to do. I do believe that she probably has no interest in running for president now because she's taken enough steps to show that I don't think that's an interest. That you would have done things radically different if you were running for president.
Well, I don't know if you've seen all of the like every single thing on Haley Stevens or Gretchen Whitmer's social media talking about Haley Stevens or like about the endorsement. Everyone is in all of the comments just dogging both of them, being like, "You both are
Yeah.
despicable," like just absolute hatred of her, of both of them. So I honestly don't think this endorsement. I mean, it probably will be doing good for very
The people
for
who are not
politically
online.
yeah, like if you're not online, if you're not politically aware, if you don't open up a book or a newspaper and you just hear that like as an ad while you're watching TV, then yeah, that might sway you. But if you're a person who has been keeping in touch with anything, so if you're a younger voter, that just pissed you the fuck off. um like I am see and I agree with you. I don't think Gretchen Whitmer is going anywhere near the White House. Like she might get a position in somebody's cabinet in
Sure.
28.
Yeah.
But like for these next 2 years, I can see her trying to teach. I can see her trying to be on a board or something. She might do a nonprofit, something, and then secretly be working with all of these AI data centers because it was just such a left turn.
The
But for like
community development foundation type shit. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. But like for
Yeah.
all normal people or semi-normal people, you saw that and you saw that they're grasping at straws. And that just puts you off, especially like I think it's such a bad thing to do, especially after all of this bad press with Gretchen. I call her Gretchen Wieners sometimes because of Mean Girls. But with Gretchen Whitmer, I've called her that since 2018. And even when I liked her when she was doing like good stuff for COVID, I was still like, good job for you, Gretchen Wieners. I still know that you're evil. I just don't know how. And guess what? She became a lame duck to become super evil. What an amazing thing to do. Um, but it's not. But if you've also seen any of the projection polls for president, Whitmer is always at 1 to 0%. I've seen this poll be done with Black voters, with young voters, with all of these other people every single time. It's like POC, it's a few other people. Bernie's still up there.
Buttigieg. Yeah.
Like, but yeah, no, Buttigieg is probably like one or two people above her. But they're
Yeah.
like, he's
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
always at the end. Like, like, no one, like, Michiganders barely like her. Nationally, she is disliked, especially with the folder, like, White
What are
House
you saying?
photo.
That Michigan was gonna stick it to him?
Oh, Michigan sticking it to 'em. It's like, girl,
So
you're from
Yeah.
Rochester Hills and Birmingham. Ain't there one person in either of those towns or any town in between those towns sound like that.
so
And I was
on
gonna
that.
say, like, I
Go
mean, we
ahead.
do have a weird tendency of like, there's a lot of people in Michigan who have real or faux Southern accents, which still do not sound like that.
Right.
Exactly. Someone who has that because my mom is a Black woman who was born like in Mississippi, and all of my family's from Mississippi. And sometimes I
Sure.
have a
Yeah.
Southern accent that comes out. Hey, never sound like that. It's never been like that.
No, for sure.
I say milk weird. I don't say stick it to them.
Actually, she said "sick it" to him, But then again, part of the gaslighting is because that's it. That's not correct. It's sick him or stick it to him. So like,
We have
let's
never said
go with
any
the
of those things.
I've
If you
never
are
heard
listening
anyone.
from across the world, we have never said that. No one has ever said that.
No one in either peninsula has said that.
And
I'll go that far.
I can guarantee you,
well,
no
there's
one.
no one in one of those peninsulas. So.
Right.
Exactly.
But
Exactly. My point.
none of them youpers are saying that shit. Like, please.
Well, on the subject of the election, right? Because we can go all day on like how insane
Oh,
Haley's acting and her consultants aren't stopping her, right?
Can I ask if you guys have been to her campaign website?
No, I haven't. What am I
Please
about to
go.
see?
You're gonna see a whole bunch of nothing. It says nothing.
Oh, Lord.
Her campaign promises is not even she's so bad at being a
Are you talking
politician.
about the campaign
one who's-
website or
So the
for
site,
the?
yeah. So this,
Yes.
yeah, the Senate, the site can't have that stuff on there. So
Yeah.
immediately asks for money. That's the
Yes.
first thing you see.
Loudly.
Watch news. I don't. Why do I want news on this?
Okay, home about
Hope Agenda.
Yeah,
Oh
Hope
my
Agenda.
God, Hope Agenda. She
endorsements.
really is just like trying so hard to home in on Obama.
The abundance agenda. Oh my God.
It's nothing. It's
Well,
nothing.
Hope, like that's what he ran at.
I know.
Equitable federal investment, ensure federal resource. Yeah, I think I did read through some of this stuff, and like people are like, "Oh, like yes, she does have policies," and I'm like, "These are really." I don't know. When you're running on, I'm the workhorse candidate. I know the legislative process. Hey, did you hear my opponent on a leaked call where he said that he's not going to get anything done in 2 years? Which I mean, I looked at her effectiveness. She didn't either. And also, like, yeah, we know that's how Congress works. The minority party generally doesn't get a whole lot done when there's an out party president.
Right.
But yeah, there's not really a whole lot of specifics here. The and some of like her, like she's really just kind of campaigning like the Michigan thing, which is like I get it, you have to appeal to the voters in Michigan, but it's a national office.
Right.
Yes, you can bring home benefits to the state, but you're not running for governor.
Right. And it really feels like she's doing a dog whistle of, oh, look, I'm a Michigander, not Abdul El Sayed.
You know,
He can be a
that's something
Michigander. Even though he was
I think you're
born,
on.
raised here, went to University of Michigan, was a doctor here, like
We try not to hold that against him.
yeah, right. It was like, I don't really give a care about the Michigan State, whatever. But like, as someone in higher ed, as long as you go to college, that's all I care about.
Yeah, I do think you're honest, because I was thinking about that too. That I was like, especially when they've been like really she's authentically Michigan. She is Michigan, main manifest. Like some weird avatar that's like emerged from a mountain somewhere from the sleeping bear dunes. Rise, Haley Stevens.
And when we needed her the most as our representative, she fucking vanished. Okay.
So about that, right?
But it was what I was saying with it is like I do kind of think, because I'm like, okay, well in the general it'll play because like, oh yeah, Mike Rogers, he lives in Florida. He's lived in Florida for a decade plus at this point. But also, like, you kind of get that sense, like, it feels like a dog whistle in the primary, right? That, like, hey, Abdul doesn't exactly look like your neighbor, does he? Unless you live in, one of those communities that are where Muslims are a little bit more prominent. But it does kind of feel, I think I've been thinking the same thing. I'm pretty sure you're onto something.
Yeah, you could just feel it's. Racism comes to me the same way as like someone who says like, I don't know all type of porn, but I know it when I see it. I don't know all type of racism. I don't know every kind of little thing everyone say it, but when I feel that, I'm like, yeah, okay, I know what you're saying. She's a real Michigander.
So I'm gonna try to steer the discussion while holding that thought. because if you look at just this month alone leading into the primary, right? Just on record, you had Detroit as one of the cities in the world with the worst air quality, top 5, during the wildfire smoke events, right? You had a massive public utility failure with the DTE power loss in July earlier, right? Cost of living is a major theme of this election, and it's been for a couple of years now. And you have that cost of living thread tied with stopping the genocide in Palestine. You know, that kind of joint thread is coming up since 2023, and those are kind of angles that Abdul has been able to exploit successfully, right? But to that end, like you guys have specified, a lot of dog whistles, a lot of like very subtle, very shady remarks have been made. So I think another attack line on that flavor, right? Abdul's record on women. He just didn't find Kamala Harris inspiring. Are you shocked that a Muslim man is misogynist? It's like that would be like the thing that they would want to say, right?
So giving what they're
full-
doing.
But also the other
So
thing
full
that go ahead.
disclosure on that, I didn't really think I didn't know that was like a trope that people leaned in. Like I didn't know that was like explicitly like, oh yeah, it's like a Muslim dog whistle. I was admittedly unfamiliar with that, but what
You're
I
so
did think it
innocent.
was, yeah, it was like the one thing where I didn't know that's what it was. I thought it was just because it really came out after the Plantner stuff. And I
Right.
thought that like, okay, this is what they're trying to do. They're just trying to be like any DSA candidate, which Abdul isn't. He
Right.
is not part of
Literally is
DSA.
not.
He doesn't even have their endorsement.
Oh
No,
no,
he does not.
Abdul
Right?
has gone on record as saying he didn't want DSA's endorsement and identifies as a capitalist,
Okay.
which I think,
He
you know
has
what?
Nationals endorsement, but he does not have the Metro Detroit DSA's endorsement.
And I would
Yeah,
actually say
so-
that, you know what, if you're not actually a socialist, don't claim it. That's actually a good thing.
Yeah,
Sure.
don't lie.
But the whole the point is, right, is I think that there's this push to kind of associate anyone DSA adjacent, left, whatever, with that sort of like Plantner behavior.
Right.
And not to like absolve Plantner or anything, but like I don't necessarily blame him for that association. I think they were looking. It's like one of those things where you're always just looking for an excuse, and this is an easy tagline to go on.
Bernie
so
and
I
his
thought that's
bros.
what it was.
Well, Fetterman
Yeah.
literally called Abdul the Pontiac.
Pontiac
Plantner, which is also like I was like, oh, that's like an extra dog whistle because he lives in Pontiac.
He
What?
doesn't even live close to Pontiac. This nigga lives in Ann Arbor. Was
Yeah.
born and raised in like Bloomfield Hills and everything. Literally, like you close, but no cigar.
But what's the racial demographic like in Pontiac, Michigan?
Pontiac bad. There's colors there. Like it's so like there again. I don't need to know every single racist thing that anyone has to say, but I know it when I see it.
Well, okay. So the person who said
of
the
course-
racist thing in question was John Fetterman. So
Who's
again, I'm
got
just
called an ogre,
openly
and that
declaring.
was nicer to him than anything else anyone has ever said to him.
So again, just openly declaring, I am hereby ready to forfeit all of John Fetterman's Carhartt. I'm not gonna
we gotta
wear it.
repossess it.
But we are
We
gonna
gotta repossess it, and we need to like douse
Sanctify
the
it,
laundry
you know, like we-
sanitizer and sage, and then give it to the less fortunate. And then maybe he has to wear his ogreish suits.
Perhaps. But then
Perhaps.
that's so the thing about Plattner and all of this as well, right? I think one thing that was positively brought out about Abdul after the Plattner revelations was Abdul kind of presents an anti-Plattner that Democrats could actually utilize in contested elections like these. It's an actual.
Well, and I think his
way to-
goal he has openly stated that's what he wants, which is where the ogre comment comes from, which Stevens the fact that her campaign was like, oh, he's talking about her. Like what?
Nobody is like she's trying to make herself so like relevant, and it's like girl, nobody would think about you. Like, again, as someone who lives in her district, I don't think about her. I haven't seen her signs literally anywhere.
No, you see him in West Bloomfield. I'm
Yeah,
keeping it a buck. That's the only place I've seen Steven signs.
that makes sense. That makes sense. But
So
it's not in like Rochester Hills. We've been to Rochester Hills plenty of times. Have you seen a stick it to 'em
no,
sign?
no, I
Well, she
believe it
was
or not, I've
born
seen
and
the
raised.
Rochester for Abdul type stuff around. So even in like
Birmingham. I still feel like even in the places in Birmingham, like on the corners of like Woodward, where there's plenty of signs, I don't see her signs.
well, so to
There's
to
been
that end,
sorry.
right? No, sorry, because we're going 10 places at once. I'm so sorry,
Yes.
guys. So coming back to Fetterman, right? I know that Fetterman's remarks are absolutely racist and should be condemned as such.
He called him the head of the Hamas wing of the party.
And then that's what I'm trying to get at, right?
That's
Is that like, is
crazy.
like, yeah, Fetterman has been a notorious anti-Arab Islamophobe post 2023, post stroke, and beyond that as well. This is a man who literally saw a black dude outside his apartment and like grabbed a shotgun and had a racist incident, like while he was the mayor of a Rust Belt town. So his
Please do
choice of
not
like,
give me the stroke that makes me super racist.
and that's what
That's like the thing. That's the thing too. That's like so crazy with me is like with him as like this sort of like positioning himself as like the I'm going to tear the party down over Plantner and like the lack of ability to vet him. You are exactly the same. Like
right.
I mean he doesn't have the same level of accusations as it pertains to sexual violence. You know, full disclosure, I acknowledge that. But everything else is like you had like these, you know, the incident of chasing a black dude down with a shotgun. All
Right.
this stuff that like you were in those same shoes. Possibly literally because they looked like they shopped at the same place. Um so like it's just mind-boggling. Maybe I would need a stroke to understand better. I don't know.
Just one of them looks like the type that would get a secret Nazi tattoo, and the other one looks like they wouldn't. Actually, they both look like
Well,
they
no,
would.
no,
Never
because
mind.
Fetterman's the type of dude to be like, I don't know why I gotta get a tattoo. I didn't want to get out of bed today. That's
He's too
that's literally
depressed.
how he talks in interviews. Like he'll get on Fox News. I don't like the way they talk about it. I need to.
So
First, it's just like can they not get that man an SSRI? They don't
I
got
was
that at
about to say,
Walter Reed.
how much Lexapro do you think would
They
fix
can't
his
get him
brain?
they can't get him the perk 30.
Y'all can't get him Zanned out.
That's what
I
I'm
need
saying.
I need Fetterman to be on future drugs to make him like redeemable again.
So again, it doesn't shock me that Fetterman is kind of deploying that same like racist strategy. That's what a lot of anti-Abdul talking points kind of redound to. I have a personal story I'm going to get into on that later, but one thing I did want to talk about in the vein of the local campaign and local events, Sky brought this to my attention, and there's more than a couple cases of this. In the same way that like Stevens has been desperate to try to claim the black vote as hers through Obama, another strategy I've seen her deploy is using local black elected officials to do Islamophobia and xenophobia on her behalf.
Ooh.
Yes. Oh, Angie Smith, the Farmington School Board, like she's the secretary of the Farmington School Board. Oh, she. Oh, she's so fucking racist. This black woman who had the worst makeup on to be saying such hateful speech, said that she
Yeah.
was Haley Stevens like at her a campaign event or something for her with Haley Stevens propaganda in the background. So over there, like yes, we like Haley Stevens
Coming out to
because she
Arabic music.
is going to she's gonna be for every race and not one race, and she's not gonna come out speaking Arabic and playing Arabic music. It's like, girl, oh girl, it's not 2001 no more. You can't say that type of racist shit.
When it's so
And
out
the
of touch.
campaign has done the bare minimum to distance itself from that too. Like
Yes, I
the
don't
campaign
see
put out a
anything
statement
being
saying that
done.
like Haley Stevens doesn't endorse this or
That's
doesn't approve
it.
of this rhetoric, but
That
nothing from her herself, just her campaign.
Haley
And it's
Stevens
like
was
that's
probably like,
crazy.
"Yay, thank you."
And I
It's
think
the
that
exact go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say, like, it's this is part of the whole like her case that she's been making is that she's the electable candidate, and if she wins this primary, she has an incredibly unenviable task of because typically, as we understand, primaries to the general election, right? You pivot to the middle a little bit to entice the median voters, the people that are not in your party base, right? That's just generally the general strategy. She's obviously going to do that, but she's also going to have to repair bridges that she has like that she or her campaign, if without directly blaming her per se, are going to have to repair these bridges that they have like torched in this primary. Whether it's through, kind of Islamophobic attacks or just a lack of real effort to engage with those communities at all.
One
Yeah,
100%.
I don't see how she
And
would like obviously she would win spaces like Pontiac and Detroit no matter what if she was the
yeah,
nominee, but like you would see a ridiculous drop of people not voting for her or not showing up at
yeah.
all if she's the candidate. Like I can tell you that I'm not voting for her. I didn't vote for her when she like was running for my local position. And after seeing, and I continue going to hammer down on that. I called Haley Stevens' office when after the shit that like in October 7th started popping up and I knew that she was a Zionist and I called her out and they were like, we're gonna get someone to call you back. Never called me back. Been on her neck since then because why are you my elected official and you're doing nothing for us locally? The only thing you can say is APAC this and APAC that. So I can tell you for a fact that if Haley Stevens is on my ballot, she is never going to get a vote from me because she has never shown me that she is going to do anything for the people of Michigan, the local people, or people of the United States if those people are not completely and utterly aligned with APAC.
And I think that like you're not a standalone case. I think there's many in that same spot. And I also think too, when it comes to that, like, because I think we've focused on like the APAC side of it more broadly from like specifically from kind of like the Free Palestine side, but I also think too like to general voters that important piece of like you're focusing on them and not Michigan, not on the United States, not on domestic issues. I think that's been really palatable and has kind of expanded sort of the, for lack of a better term, the anti-Israeli coalition in the United States, right? Or at least anti-Israel coalition is that I think that there's this perception that, um, I think rightly in a lot of cases, right? They've, even if you were nominally supportive of the state of Israel for whatever reason, you kind of acknowledge they've gone too far, that even if they haven't necessarily in your mind for whatever reason, racism probably, then you don't have the like you still have priorities that are not Israel that are being ignored in its name.
Right.
That's
And that
100%. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
so like I mean the idea like the other thing that gets me is the idea that Israel is the only safe place for Jewish people. Jewish people aren't safe here in the Metro Detroit area. And if they're not, then we should be doing stuff to make our neighbors feel safe. We shouldn't be funneling money to organizations, to another country. We should be doing stuff to make our local people feel safe locally.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is it's a lot of cultural memory. That it's not an easy task to necessarily make it so that they feel safe without that. But I mean, it is something that you're right, 100%. We should think about ways that, like, locally, if that's not if it's dangerous to be Jewish in Metro Detroit, in Detroit, etc., we should be doing things more directly to that end.
So something I want to jump in on, right, is buried in that discussion. And I think I tried touching on this earlier, and I think I found the words for it. I think in 2023, right, you had that voiced position that this issue with Israel is going to bleed into everything else. And what you're kind of seeing locally, especially now, is a lot of you'll see it in like clips that are going viral from like city council meetings and stuff like that, where people are trying to voice their dissent and disapproval of data centers in their community. They're speaking up and showing out against ICE. They're
Mhm.
against surveillance with tools like Flock, which again kind of tie into like the integration with Israeli surveillance with American defense infrastructure and and stuff like that. And I think there's something to be said that whatever impulse it was on that single issue in 2023 is starting to open a new fissure politically, right? That is not really being represented by the mainstream Democratic Party, most certainly not being represented by the Republicans. And I think that cohort is starting to find itself represented by Abdul style politics. That cost of living lane has been more receptive to those kinds of civilian resistance to the machinery of capitalism at work, right? Um, and I think that's what is speaking to people about Abdul's campaign. And those are also the groups that I think are kind of leading the charge, right? You saw that in 24, you had a lot of those No King protests. You had a lot of this very disaffected but palpable resentment from the people you wouldn't usually
25.
expect. Yeah, 25. My bad. My bad. Oh my
Yeah,
God. Time has
25,
been a blur.
26.
Yeah. So 25, 26 is when we used to see No Kings, right?
We
And
didn't
you're
have a
starting.
king yet in 24.
But that's what I'm saying, right? Is like that palpable outrage is now turning into like civilian disapproval of what is like a fundamentally undemocratic push into people's lives. So that's like the one thing I want to get stressed in there, right? Is that it is a little bigger than Israel. It's more of like the 2023 pro-Israel, pro-Zionist, Hasbarist rhetoric has kind of been used as a mask um, for the Netanyahuites Israeli politics that are dominant, as well as the integration of Israeli technology infrastructure and defense infrastructure with American technology and defense infrastructure. So like I just want to make sure we don't lose that subtext. Another thing that I think is important to bring up, this is a personal story. Back when I was a very misguided, very stupid campaign staffer. Um this was out in Rochester Hills, and a member of their city council lost his most recent election, thank God. Went on record as basically saying that Michigan is not ready for a man with that last name when talking about Abdul specifically.
Yeah.
Just verbatim, not interested in a discussion on the substance or the merits. Just straight into the nope, they're not ready.
It's like maybe you're not ready.
And I think
Yeah,
that's what a lot of this is that like the Metro Detroit area of our generation, so specifically the three of us of our generation's cultural memory has been considerably way more diverse, considerably more open-minded. yes, I wouldn't say that that's universal, but like I can tell you that like my Republican ass coworkers go crazy for halal chicken and rice. The seal has already been fucking ripped in Metro Detroit. The seal has already been ripped in the state of Michigan. So like when we talk about like who belongs or like who is allowed to be American, um it's the Trumpist dialogue or the Trumpist prescription being enforced on the liberal population, right? It's
Mhm.
okay, trust Stevens, don't trust Abdul. And it's like, I'm sorry, people had to throw out the entire contents of their fridge in July.
Yeah.
You think they care about this shit? Like they want someone who's gonna like, if they're gonna sick it to anybody, they would like to have it sicked on their public utilities providers.
Also, I've completely forgot to talk about how um so many influencers, people on Twitter started saying the exact same thing about Stevens all at the same time, saying,
He's starting
"Oh,
to grow on me.
she's starting to grow on me," including Meghan McCain. And then someone was
That's when
like,
you know it's cap.
it was like,
Jesse
so who
Waters
the
said that he
hell
liked
are
her.
we sticking it to? Because it seems like
Yeah,
it's
well, that was
us.
yeah, it was the Meghan McCain. It was when it was the stick it to him sign. She's like, I love this," and it was like all Republicans retweeting the like the effect of like, "Oh, this is great, I love it," blah blah blah,
Right.
and
She's
yeah, that
growing
was the
on
same
me.
thing. It was like sticking it to him, and because she like that's like part of her. I mean, obviously the stick it to him signs and whatnot has been part of her campaign, but also like the whole like, "Oh, I'm gonna fight." Who are you fighting? Um,
It seems like it's the people,
Yeah, and it's just,
whatever we
this
want.
is and there was, right after, what was it, Tuesday's debate, or was it Monday? Monday.
Times of late, yeah.
Right after Monday's debate, she was, like, asked by a reporter, about stuff that you kind of related again to, you had mentioned before, like, issues with DTE and all the utility costs, and everything, and she was asked about this, um, kind of pressed a little bit, and she's like, "Well, listen, I'm just trying to get into the Senate. We can't talk about like these reforms right now because like the whole question, right, is like you're getting contributions from these people. Um,
Hmm.
what is what does that translate into?" And she again, like someone in that position, what happened to just a good old fashioned lie?
Right.
But you can't say anything to that effect, right? And it's like I think, Abdul did a good job, of tying that whole like, like she's got all this corporate money. It translates into, particularly with APAC, right? Well, she was one of uh, comparatively few Democrats who voted in favor of more funding to Israel. Um, so
And thanking
you
ICE.
can, yeah.
Thanks, ICE. You did such a good job killing those innocent people.
Well, and this is the thing that was touched on briefly earlier, and I think it has to be called into the open now, right? Which is, where the fuck is Mike Rogers? Um, because it's like
He was at the
What the hell? What you know
he
where
was
the
he
fuck
was
he
he
is?
was was that event, where was it, Ferndale or wherever that Trump was just at? No,
No,
Rogers was there.
he was somewhere. I can't
Trump was
remember
in
Yeah, I
where.
can't
Ferndale. What
remember.
what Gays
He
for
was in
Trump had an
Oakland
Maybe
event
not
there?
in
County for
Fern. What am
sure.
I thinking? It's
It was definitely in Oakland County.
yeah, I'm trying to remember where it was.
Penn
No.
or
Um,
Waterford usually.
It was Milford? Is that what it says? Milford? Ew.
yeah, Milford.
Sorry.
He was at GM.
Sorry if you live in Milford. That's gross.
Oh wait, is this the same one where one of the factory workers called him a pedo and he got mad?
Yeah, he called him a
I think
communist.
so.
Okay, yeah.
Actually,
Okay.
he didn't even
Flip
call
this
him a
one
pedo. He
off.
called him a pedo protector.
This was only months ago. God.
No, he was just at another he was just in Michigan. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah,
2 days
Monday he was
ago.
at General Motors, Milford Proving Ground.
Oh, he was at the Pro.
Yeah, so
Oh my
Rogers
God.
Yeah.
was there with him. James was there. Yeah, I
Which
think a
yeah,
few
like
other.
the
I mean, there
only
was
thing
like
I can
McLean and some of the other
It's so
ghouls.
crazy that he's endorsing John James and not Perry
Perry.
Johnson too.
Well, Perry Johnson's whole shtick is okay because we live. Unfortunately, if you live anywhere on this side of Woodward Avenue, you know that the Oakland County Republicans office is right off of Woodward,
It's
and
so depressing.
this entire time, okay. We've been on record saying this before. The Oakland County Republican Party is one of the most well-funded state party chapters in the state, as well as possibly the country. Perry Johnson's tour bus has been parked outside their office for like the
At
past
least
what?
one of them.
At least one of those buses have been parked for at least what the last 3 months.
Yeah. Like has not moved. Like they have said that they are going against Trump and they want Perry Johnson. It's like, is it because John James is again bad at his job, just like Haley Stevens, or is it because you guys are racist? It could be both.
Well, and so one of the thing, I mean, this is kind of a side tangent, but like I guess like this has been a story that the Perry Johnson campaign is sort of latched onto, but not a ton, is that John James may or may not be having an affair with
Oh
someone
my
else from the
God.
Michigan coalition. So, and I have heard this from sources
Gee.
in s- in Michigan state politics and in DC. And when someone else who I think probably deserves some kind, regardless of whether they're having an affair, him and Hillary Schulten over in Grand Rapids, she has been taking a lot of also frustrating stances. And this is maybe a bigger conversation too about with the primary as well, is she has made it not necessarily clear that she will not vote for Al Saeed if he won't win, but she's made it she's made it a very open question as if she will. And this has been the case from a few other centrists as well, where they've been, so much for voting blue no matter who.
They
But
literally
supposedly,
destroyed that comment.
yeah. Well, and it's funny too because part of what also makes me not just like the fact that I've heard people say that they also believe this rumor, but she retweeted like one of the vague posts about this that there was like supposedly an affair between two members of different parties. That's all it said. Didn't say from what state.
But
Didn't say
all I'm saying
anything.
is
And she
saw
retweeted
that.
it saying, "How dare Perry Johnson go after a single mother in Congress?"
So the
Oh,
only thing I'm gonna say about both John James and Perry Johnson, right, is it's two dudes with the same forehead like that. They both got the same forehead. I just realized that. And what they could have done has been making fun of each other's hairline the entire time.
but they can't because then you're making fun of yourself.
But I would rather watch that than this type of shit. And then also again,
So what do you mean Trump endorsed John James because he's like adulterer?
but I mean that might be it. But here's the thing: is like as much as like that is like kind of a bombshell. I also like came up in the era of like Gamrat and Corsair, if anyone remembers that affair.
Yeah.
And it's just
And
like
that's what I thought was kind of. I did think it was rather shocking that this wasn't getting more traction than that because I guess people are just really keeping it under wraps. I don't know.
possibly, yeah.
But
'Cause
yeah, I mean, I've heard supposedly, the belief is that, she's recently divorced and this is maybe a reason why.
oh Lord, oh my God.
Not that's the reason why. That's messy.
See, this is the groundbreaking independent research that we bring you here at Greenhouse Gaslighting.
Yeah, I mean, this is all rumor and conjecture, but like some of the people I've asked, expected, if not like a denial, just like, kind of a laugh it off type thing. But when their
Yeah.
immediate response was, oh yeah, this is probably true. I'm like, what? What do you mean?
Oh my god.
Not
Oh
like,
my
oh yeah,
I
god.
just
I
sent it
heard
because I
this
thought it was bullshit.
crazy, right? Hey, yo, I just want you to know that this is probably right, and don't act surprised when you hear about it.
Yeah, I'm like, what?
Oh my god. And
It's truly like Lindsey Graham. It's like if like when we get all of these people who will probably come out, it's like someone has already a trans woman has already came out and like alleged shit about
You
Lindsey
know,
Graham. Like
I
you,
think they
it's
came
like
out a little too quickly, to be honest. It was, I'm not saying that like, oh, like, get, too soon, but I'm just saying like it was a little like, they
know,
were a little too eager to get the story out, which is like, yeah, everyone is
I,
gonna like kind of believe it, but
I won't be mad if they tell it all, and I bet you a lot
well,
of
I
people
won't
will still
either.
agree. The
I won't either, and I know that there's almost certainly going to be those stories that come out, but like when that person came out, like immediately, I'm like, okay, someone's just looking for attention, probably.
so
Like little
again,
suspicious timing.
starting with the remarks I opened the show with, I don't want to read about any of Lindsey Graham's Southern decadence. After I had the
oh
misfortune of
my.
reading the Ladybug story, I'm good. I'm good.
He's like
I do
the
enjoy your Trump eulogy. What the
Okay, because I have not been on social media. Can someone explain to me what happened at the eulogy?
he did not give one single fuck.
So I need to find the direct quote because that's like I didn't watch the whole thing, but so Trump, like obviously like he has speechwriters and stuff like that. And sometimes he reads a script and will go off script, like seeing like something that he's like, I've got to editorialize this a little bit. So he reads something like everyone liked Lindsay, which I mean, to be fair, I think we've seen enough people talk
like Lindsay.
Yeah, I think we've seen enough people talk about him. I mean, we made fun of Cory Booker off the show and whatnot with it. But I think probably interpersonally, he was a likable enough dude.
Yeah, because
Unless
he
you
was
were.
sorry. I don't
That
know.
cut out for me. I hope the audio caught that.
No, I
It cut
I
out
didn't
too.
continue what I was gonna say. I
Oh
self
no.
edited myself because I was
Oh
like,
no.
I don't know if this is appropriate to say, but if you're one of my friends, ask me what I was thinking, and I'll tell you offline.
So the thing that sticks with me about Lindsey Graham is probably
That
when
was so
his
the quote. I got it now. Virtually everyone liked Lindsay. Well, not everybody, but it sounds good. I have to be honest. I have to veer from this for a second. So, like, the statement was like so incredulous for me. He's like, I can't like say this in good faith that virtually everyone liked Lindsay. Like, that's gonna be on one of your eulogies, right? Just like
It's
everyone
like,
liked it. Well, not everyone,
not
but
everyone.
not
Like,
everyone, but what are you gonna do? Oh my god.
it's just it's so very catty of both of them. Like in general, like the fact like their whole relationship has been very like high school mean girl type beat. Like Lindsey Graham being like, he's despicable, he's horrible, he's a degenerate. I hate him and I would never be behind Trump as soon as Trump gets elected. What would you like, sir? Very mean. Trump being like, "Oh, I hate Lindsey Graham." As soon as he dies, everybody loved him. Like it's so catty. And I want to say more to that, but I'll just say catty.
Well, on the subject of cattiness, right?
he
Because there
also
is
when he's walking down from the lectern, he does like this weird tap on the
Oh
coffin.
yeah, yeah. He knocks the coffin, and like there's a
my
lot of talk
God.
about like Trump's fear of mortality, and just something about that is so
It's so
Trumpian.
funny.
It's so
funny.
Trumpian. I
It's
don't know how
funny
to
because
say it.
there's one thing that made me really think of that was Sean Hannity also gave a eulogy, and he's talking about how like I'm paraphrasing only slightly here. He's basically talking about how like Lindsay's in like the great Mar-a-Lago in the sky, basically. And I'm like, is this just like I'm like, are we just like buttering Trump up? Like, it's okay. Like when it happens, it's gonna be this beautiful thing.
Okay.
Is this like what like are we just like bracing him like for this? Because it was such an insane thing. It's like, oh, he's probably got the little golden arch of Trump up there too because he needs to be close to you.
Ew.
And like it's like he's prepared the way for you, Donald. Like
We'll say
it was like this
that
bizarre.
the astrologer I follow said that on my birthday, August 3rd, and if anyone wants to give me a gift, that was going to be the day. So I'm waiting to see if they're doing the dog, give the dog some chocolate and a steak and take him to the beach. I'm wondering if that's what they're trying to do to him right now.
Well,
So I've got the quote now. Hannity,
no.
my president, Lindsey Graham probably has a heavenly version of Mar-a-Lago. It may even be a little bigger. I wouldn't be surprised if he added one big, beautiful ballroom and an arch somewhere on the property because he would want to obviously duplicate his dearest friend in life, you.
That is quite literally worse than what you said, because then they got to say their favorite word, ballroom. I feel like
That's
there's like a
true.
horrible episode of Pee
Also,
Wee Playhouse.
also that whole pair of sentences has to be gayer than anything Lindsey Graham accomplished in life.
Right.
Like this, oh my gosh, it is the weirdest. These people are so weird. They're so weird and so evil, and they're evilly weird. Actually funny too. I hate Trump. Everything he fucking does, not everything, but a lot of every time they let him talk, it's so funny. Because you should
Yeah.
not be having this person at this high of a level of this important, quote unquote, of a country.
Well, on that thread, right? It is funny to remember that like Lindsey Graham used to be anti-Trump once upon a time, which makes all of this insane because I thought you weren't supposed to lie in the church. But something to think about in all of this, Lindsey Graham, if he was known for being anything, was being a fucking being a hawk in the Senate.
Oh yeah.
He kind of got the entire foreign policy apparatus he dreamt of his whole career. And something to the effect of how he got it is basically goading Donald Trump into basically saying, well, Barack tried it and it didn't work. And that was kind of how Trump was goaded into following some of these things. Granted, I still hold him personally accountable for taking Lindsey Graham seriously of all things. But above that too, right?
I don't know if you've seen it. I was gonna say I don't know if you've seen the video of like that came out of like his office right after we bombed Iran the first time in this most recent dish.
And he was just all butched up. He was all butched up for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I don't know, Will Menaker on Chapo called him like the baton twirler at the parade of Empire. And it's like, no, that's fucking perfect.
That's literally what he does. He did. Sorry.
That is what
rest in peace.
So if you remember when he ran for president in 16 or 15, his opening speech in South Carolina is like the last is like, and we are going to die in hellfire against Iran. 2-second
like,
pause, and then the music. Whoa! I feel good. Like nothing about this.
was so dystopian.
Yeah, that was yeah.
Oh my god.
That was great, and so was there's the debate where this has kind of vanished from like the lexicon of like mainstream right-wing discourse, right? But there was that whole debate around whether like women should be in the military. And then on the debate stage, he takes the I guess I'll say progressive stance. Ladies, if you want to kick some ass, vote for me. Like he was like, "Oh yeah, anyone who's willing to do this, I'm game."
Which it just makes me so sad. It makes me so sad that like if this man was just allowed to be like, just a bon vivant in the South, just a dandy, just a gentleman, wandering around the streets of Savannah. Just he needs himself a drink because the Southern flower was parched. If he was just allowed to do that, like I wouldn't hate him as much. But it's like,
No,
like
I would hate him still.
but for different reasons. For different reasons. Is it true that his sister is taking over for him?
Yeah, she got the position. Nepotism, bro.
I think it's
nepotism.
I think it's still up for a special election, right?
I'm not sure. That's
I
why
don't think it's a sure thing.
No, I think I'm not. Yeah, I'm not. I can't remember, but that's still crazy.
Trump endorsed her. Yeah, she would have been his first lady if he was elected. That's what he said back in.
Okay, so Darlene Graham was appointed.
Okay, so, I mean,
but this is to fill the vacancy. She didn't get elected.
But
so I think there's
yeah, but
is it going
that
into
doesn't matter. I mean,
election?
she's a functional senator. Yeah, there might be another special election that she's also running for. I'm not sure.
Yeah, she will serve until January 3rd, 2027.
She was a commissioner of the South Carolina Commission for the Blind. Which I mean, I think there's jokes to be had there too, but I'll resist.
So yeah, there's no special election. She's just in the position until.
Yeah, I think I had heard they were doing a special election too, but maybe they just filled the vacancy and then they're like, we'll also do this for a more permanent.
Which is,
because when is he?
I think this is a perfect time for us to segue to our where the fuck is Mitch McConnell? I know where he is. Him and Lindsey Graham are high-fiving in hell right now. But because one of the things I don't understand is in Kentucky they're making it seem like the governor won't have any power, but like if he dies after a certain time, will they trigger a special election or will the governor just be able to appoint?
So I don't know. I think I'm not 100% sure what the particular laws are in Kentucky. They're different state by state because of the way the Senate works, because it was originally they were appointed by the state legislature. So when they moved to a popular vote, the replacement mechanism remained up to the states as opposed to the House where it has to be a special election. But I know that I think they might be a special election state. I think it's a more recent change because I think when Lindsey Graham started, or not Lindsey Graham, when Mitch McConnell started to have health issues, and they realized that, oh, hey, there's a Democratic governor, this could be a problem. I think they did adjust the laws surrounding that. So there's been talk about him.
That's what I thought.
Trying to call for a special election beforehand, because otherwise, like, why? Like, if you don't need the election, just appoint someone. But yeah, he has. A lot of people have said he's kind of taken a cowardly approach with it. I think that's probably true, but I think, like, I mean, I get it. It's like a weird legal gray area. If Mitch McConnell is, in all likelihood, legally brain dead. I don't necessarily know. Like, there's there's not like a 25th Amendment that like for senators that says like, oh yeah, like this person can't serve.
Plus, Dianne Feinstein kind of set the precedent that you can basically be not all the way there.
Yeah, well, I think there's a broader um generational concern. If I could put it that way. That I think a lot of like I think on one hand they're kind of scared of being put into the same boat as a Dianne Feinstein, but I also think they are um there's sort of like we can't like admit that there's like a real problem here.
I would tend to
Yeah,
agree. And
maybe he is just getting that BBL.
has Mitch McConnell said anything about Lindsey Graham's passing yet? Because I think like again, I have been
There
keeping
was some
very
statement from it, but like
okay.
it's not like there's a video.
There's no video of him.
Oh my god.
Yeah, because I mean, like they have to like. Did he actually articulate these words? I'm skeptical. Um, yeah, but I think that like on some level, his office acknowledges that they have to give like something.
Hmm.
So yeah,
I'm at a loss because we've thoroughly exhausted the outline. That's quite literally all I had for y'all today. Um, all I can say is, if you live in the state of Michigan, go early vote. I know it's about to be some fuckery on election day, so if you had the chance to vote absentee or vote early, do it. That's probably what I'll be doing.
yeah, it'll be an interesting. I mean, or could be very frustrating. I think the whole process in the primary this go around has been frustrating here, right? Like I think we have just such a pronounced contrast that I think there's if you had someone that wasn't Stevens in sort of that mainstream position, I think it would have been easier. It would have been an easier pill to swallow.
Hmm.
Ironically, and I was thinking about this when one of my friends was asking me, like, is there like, there had to have been like a better mainstream candidate. And I was like, well, funnily enough, I think had AIPAC not gone all in on Haley Stevens during her primary against Andy Levin, he would have probably been like a great like consensus ish pick.
Which again, what is he up to now? Because I think he was in like something with the county commissioners, and then like, has he all but disappeared at this point?
Um, I think politically he hasn't really done anything.
Yeah. Which again, that was the last of the Levin dynasty.
Post Congress, according to Wikipedia at least, distinguished senior fellow at the Center for American Progress for 2 years. Returned to Lean and Green, Michigan as founder and chief strategist.
Oh boy. Center for American Progress, where dreams go to die.
You could say it's the cap of your dreams.
Oh my gosh. Well, all I can say on this one is stay tuned for next week. We'll see how the election pans out. I don't know how else to end this one.
Like you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't know how. That's what I'm saying is like I would like to see Abdul win, but like Josh was saying, it's like if the polls seem cooked on either side, and that's like been probably the worst impacts of the Trump era, right? Is like we live in
There's like
such
that
a
inherent there's that inherent distrustfulness of them. I think some of them have tried to like cook their like house effects to try to like capture what they think they're missing. And I mean, I think what it's really going to come down to, right, is like, I've been following some of like the early voting turnouts, and like, I guess some of them are relatively high, um, but they're also pretty small numbers, right? So I'm like, this is not a super high turnout environment, right? Like this is, um, you're not gonna see a turnout in the primary that looks, most likely it's not gonna look like what it would for a presidential election or even a presidential primary, right? So like it's gonna be somewhat low turnout, but it's in the type of environment where, like, because it's somewhat low turnout, having someone like Abdul, like if he's able to do like what Mamdani did in the New York primary in particular, you only really need probably realistically a few thousand more votes that would have otherwise not voted
Yeah.
to really tip the election, right? And I don't think, there might be, Stevens might be tapping into a certain level of like anti-Abdul energy that also might increase turnout, but I think like Abdul is generally where the energy is, and if we get a higher
Mhm.
turnout, I think it's going to favor him. Um, Again, I don't want to like count my chickens before they hatch. Um, and again, it's an uphill battle, right? Yes, he has
Yeah.
the grassroots energy and support. Stevens also just has a shit ton of fucking money.
Yeah.
All of the
That
money.
yeah, she won't have it in the general, but for right now, she's got a ton of money, um, backing her, and that's again, we've seen in Kentucky, as you've noted, where there's a bunch of money that goes to the local campfire. Could that be what happens here? I don't know. Fingers crossed. We'll see what happens.
Well, on the subject of electability, right? Mike Rogers' biggest scandal that I was aware of, this most recent time around, aside from his philandering with Trump and general right-wing views, was him quite literally posting a picture of himself with AI abs.
Ew.
It wasn't the abs. Like his entire
Like
body
his
is like
entire body, he was
transmorphed.
like okay, these motherfuckers be like mad about trans people all the time, and then like the perception they have of themselves is like way out of step with reality, to the point that like he had himself at like 350 pounds lean, 2% body fat, basically. And I know that like okay, Florida can do something to a man. It doesn't do that.
It does not do that.
Yeah, well, it
Um,
was funny too because like right after that, I don't think it was him. I think it was just like a PAC, or super PAC that had put out an ad supporting him that was made out of AI, and it was like talking about how like, oh, like Gretchen Whitmer's gonna sell out, your community to the local data center. I'm like, okay, hold on a second. I get to call her out on that. You do not.
You don't get
Especially
to
when you're
call
using a
her out on
fucking
that.
AI ad to make that point. Like, no.
That's crazy.
And that's exactly what I'm getting at. This is what's at stake, Michigan. Okay. Not just a right wing psycho, one of the most prolific right wing psychos, an FBI agent.
Really?
Okay. Yeah.
He
Rogers was an
former
FBI
FBI.
agent.
That was always the joke with when he ran against Slotkin last time.
Ew.
It was FBI
Also,
versus CIA.
oh yeah, I do remember that now. He's not even a snowbird. He's just a bird. He lives in Florida all the time. It'll be one thing if he was like, yeah, I live in Florida because the winters are bad and the infrastructure is bad, and that's why I moved back to fix the infrastructure and do something. I don't know,
Well, okay.
lie.
Okay.
But he
Okay.
does not even live here.
Well,
Well,
okay. So
and I
to
think
that end, right? Like people talk about being authentically Michigan. Is there anything less authentically Michigan than escaping for the winter? Because you couldn't
That's
deal with
true
it.
because you have enough money to deal with it.
yeah, it's odd to me because like I mean when he retired from Congress in 14, he kind of just disappeared. Like I think he had some show on one of the networks. It wasn't Fox. Like it was like he was just like the host of like some like FBI like true crime type show, over like cases that the FBI did or something like that, or maybe it was CIA too. I don't know. But he did that for a brief bit, but he otherwise was like gone. And it was like something that really stood out, I think, last cycle because he felt like a fish out of water in like modern GOP politics when he was running, where it's like he would say things that like would have made sense to say in 2014 but don't make sense in 2024. um and this time around I think he's maybe a little bit more versed, but now it's kind of, the like how you doing fellow youths um type thing. And especially because again, like, if you're going to run again, you couldn't have corrected your address within the past 2 years. Weird stuff.
He's also not running against anyone, so no one has to challenge him.
Yeah, and obviously that changes once you go to the general, but I think too, like on the electability argument is, I think, both like your more establishment types, but I also think even on the left, people need to, I think, acknowledge that electability isn't necessarily like an ideological thing. Like ideology plays a role, but like so many people get caught up in like well, you really have to be like really really moderate to win a purple state, or if like on the left to an extent, right? The idea of like, well, if you ran a true leftist, then they would win. But I think that like some of it is like Haley Stevens just has a lot of these, despite making all these electability arguments, she just has a lot of these like weird intangibles. She cannot address certain questions well. Despite all the insistence to the contrary, she does not come across as particularly authentic.
Mhm.
And, inability to raise money on her own, all of these things that are a real risk to electability that are kind of ignored by a lot of people.
Which I think let's get at what that really means. It was never about electability. It was about the quiet and invisible supremacy of the Democratic Party apparatus,
Mhm.
It's that whole you wait your turn principle that we saw with who is allowed to step up next, who's the next on the bench, and what we're trying to at least this has been my read of the situation post 2016. I know there's a variety of factors behind it, but the Democratic bench or the establishment bench is pretty empty at this point. Like they can drum up cranks every now and then, but who is genuinely excited for some of these candidates now? Like if we try to like name some of these new presidential hopefuls, Pete Buttigieg, who was excited then? And that's the last of the bench.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been kind of, whether it's a like organic replenishment or just a sort of new emphasis on, there's been kind of this push towards um a lot of governors, and different governors from before. But you're right. Like, I mean, a lot of people who do not, they just don't inspire. And maybe that's on some level a flaw of the ideology and how it presents itself too. But I think it's something deeper than that, right? Like, I mean, you could have had like I mean, I don't think there's a lot of love lost here for Alyssa Slotkin, but I don't think she comes across as bad as Haley Stevens does.
I will say that she is so smart for not having a dog in this fight, because she knew, and I said this before she officially said that she's not endorsing anyone. Like, I was like, she knows not to say anything, because then we start looking into your background, girl, and that's not a good look. So like it's really smart of her to just be like, I am letting it pass. I'm not endorsing anyone. I'm keeping quiet about it while everybody else can squabble and put their names to it. And especially after what happened to Gretchen Wieners. Everybody started dogpiling on her in all of the comments and every social media when it came to this ad. Yeah, they are lucky that this ad is going to get to the grandparents and other people who have cable still and get to watch those ads, or maybe are watching YouTube and don't try to skip through the ads as soon as possible. But Haley Stevens is not her. She just doesn't have it.
Well, and I think that's what we're trying to get at fundamentally, and I think maybe I'm finally tying back where my head is at now to where my head was when I started the podcast, which is fundamentally there's something to be said about the mindset of people in charge of democratic politics at this point, right? You can argue that like Slotkin's personability may tie to like that electability thing we've been trying to unpack here. And I think fundamentally what's happened with the Democratic Party is it's led and staffed by people who have some kind of fetishization or fixation with an aspect of politics, what we've been calling civil religion, for a while now. They're fixated by the spectacle, they're fixated by the prestige, they're fixated by
Mhm.
the norms, traditions, and rituals. They're fixated by the great man theory of it all. But fundamentally, I think you're right that it's like in arguing about electability, what we're fundamentally missing, in the forest for the trees is that this type of politics that they're critiquing is not palatable to them. We've unpacked at length what their politics and ideology are, but I think what's fundamentally unique or common among all the people in the Democratic Party apparatus that we've described for years that we all hate commonly is that their vision of politics is so radically different, so out of touch, so out of tune with what the actual situation on the ground is. They're playing games, they're having fantasies, they're doing this, that, and the third. Maybe they serve ideological goals that are also rooted in those misgivings, but fundamentally, right, me looking at the situation from the ground with like my biases, ideological as they are, my conception of what politics is and should be is leaps and bounds more holistic in its outlook and also just wildly different than what these people are fixated on. And I think that's what your point about electability is touching on. And I think that's a good point that you brought that up. I really do appreciate it. Is that you're right. It's not about ideology. It's about meeting the moment. It's about being the person to meet that moment. And I think that's where the party, I mean, the Republicans aren't doing a good job of that either. They're meeting the moment by playing into dog whistles and giving people negative freedoms, right? But I think that's been the biggest failure of the Democratic Party is they have consistently failed to meet the moment in favor of XYZ. All missing the point for something.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if that was coherent or anything. I'm just spitballing at this point. I have been out of the loop for a bit.
Well, now you're in the loop.
I still got to think about a title for this one. I'm lost.
Abdul for Senate.
Yeah, I don't know. I was gonna go with DEMOCALYPSE 2026.
You gotta say that for the actual, or it depends if we just keep it as like a mini series or something. I was like, you gotta keep it
Yeah,
for the election otherwise.
DEMOCALYPSE 2026 Michigan primaries or something. I don't know. We'll figure
Yeah,
it out.
there we go.
There we go. All right. Next on the docket, G Savior. I'll get to it.
Oh boy.
That'll be a fun one. That'll be a fun one. All right. This has been another episode of Greenhouse Gaslighting. We got our links in the doobly doo. Signing off for tonight. See you on the next one. Take care.